What an experience having my first sort of go on a stand-up, and I've got the bug. I want to get a stand-up. Guys, it finally happened. I finally spent some time on a stand-up jet ski, and let's just say I've got the bug. I want one. I will find one, likely a square nose Yamaha or a Cowie from that period. So rest assured, stand-up fans, we're going to be getting one on the channel. But today I want to give you my first impressions having now rode a 2024 brand new SuperJet and how it felt for a completely uninitiated, inexperienced stand-up rider. So guys, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button and let's get into the video. So guys, recently I went to Tattershall 158 and I spent the week there, and I was very lucky to ride a brand new 2024 Spark Trix. Watch that video here where I give my thoughts on it. And the very, very kind owner who let me ride the brand new Spark Trix had a brand new 2024 SuperJet, and he said, do you want to go on that as well? Naturally, I snapped his hand off, and he told me, you're probably going to fall off immediately, which I saw as a challenge, obviously. I got on it. As you can see, I stood up, I went in a straight line, did not fall off. I did 2 laps, got my confidence up, and then I fell off. And it took me by surprise. So today I thought it would be quite unique and helpful for anyone that's potentially interested in a 2024 SuperJet to get honest thoughts from someone who doesn't spend tons of time on stand-up. I'd actually rode one other stand-up, and that was about 4 years ago, and I was able to do 1 lap before the owner said, give it back. So this was really my first time where I spent 30 minutes on a stand-up to get a real good sense. So if you're someone like myself who rides X4s, XPs, Yamaha, Wave Blasters, and you're tempted to dip a toe into stand-ups, this video should serve 2 purposes. 1, what is a stand-up like if you're used to sit-downs? And 2, my honest thoughts on the brand new SuperJet for anyone that's potentially into stand-ups and just wants to hear the thoughts on it. So first and foremost, my understanding of the 2024 SuperJet, having done a bit of research after having a go, is that they've tried to bring back the spirit of the 90s and the square noses and the playful characteristics, being able to do tail stands and nose dives and all that sort of stuff. And whilst I didn't do any of that stuff, because naturally it's my first ever go and I don't really know how to, hopefully I'll change that in the near future. I'm actually hoping to make a video where I get to go on 4 different stand-ups to try and educate me on what constitutes as good and bad stand-up. And I'm going to get some expert input advice from an ex-world champion in Simon Gill and his boy Harley Gill, who is an up-and-coming talent. So if anyone can educate me on how to ride a stand-up, it's going to be those guys. So stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe button. But getting on the 2024 SuperJet, it felt effortless. As much as stand-up guys might say, Joe, you're riding it wrong, I will accept that. It's my first go. Give me some time and I'm sure I can improve. It felt effortless to kneel onto it, stand up, and that power just felt epic. I'm used to coming from older 2-strokes where I like low-end power. I think the SuperJet is only about a 45 mile-an-hour ski, so it's by no means a fast ski, but it feels quite quick the way that it pulls. And someone who's never rode a stand-up for an extended period of time, the first thing that I had to grasp and get to grips with was the fact that you can turn, obviously, with the bars, the handlebars themselves, but you also have the stem, and you have the leg position in what I would call the tray. I'm probably getting the terminology wrong, so if you are an avid stand-up rider, put in the comments what I should be referring to these things. But I stood up, and I think I put my left leg forward and my right leg to the back of the tray, and I went down the straight and I got it straight up to 45 miles an hour, and it felt epic. It didn't feel at that point that it was hard to sort of get the balance. That was all fine. Then I hit the first corner. Now, if you've been to Tattershall 158, you'll know the bottom corner after a long straight is a corner which is all about getting your positioning right. I leant the ski over, and that was for the first time where naturally I was in a good position anyway because my left leg was inside of the tray, which from watching some ex-amazing stand-up world champions, the likes of Chris the Fish and McCluggage, I think that's where your leg should go. Might be completely wrong. It felt effortless to lean over. This is where the first intricacies of riding this ski started to become apparent. So when you then come to the next buoy, it's Tattershall, I think it's a right and then a left. you need to shift your legs. So shifting the legs for the first time is one of the moments where I feel that balance comes into play. I then came back over to the area where George, the owner of the SuperJet, was to try and show, look, George, I can do this. I started to do some circles and I got the speed up. And I think what happened is I switched legs sort of mid-corner or beginning to mid-corner, which is obviously a complete mistake knowing now, and it threw me off. And it threw me off hard, I must say. So one thing I would say about stand-ups is I think because you're essentially getting ejected from the ski quite abruptly at a low angle, you tend to hit the water. And yeah, so that was an education. And in that process, I lost my 80s lovely retro glasses that my parents had kindly bought me. They've got me another pair since, but we spent ages after the fact trying to find them. They sunk to the bottom. So 158 Lake, you've got a pair of my glasses at the bottom, a nice pair of glasses. And then I kept falling off after that point. So I think what had happened is I got a false sense of security of how easy it was. And then I was starting to push the threshold of cornering the ski, and it just started to bite me back. Whether some of it was to do with fatigue, what I would say is I train a lot. I do the likes of squats, deadlifts, all that sort of stuff in the gym. So lactic acid wasn't a concern or an issue, and that wasn't where I felt the fatigue set in. The fatigue was more mental, as in reminding myself to move the stem as I was coming into the corner, to shift my body position. So the physicality of it wasn't the problem. It was the educational piece around how you should ride this ski. I remember watching footage of the likes of Chris the Fish, and I think they call it like the leg drag, where they pull the leg out of the tray. I can only imagine you need an extreme amount of confidence to start doing that sort of thing. I think that's a stylistic trait as opposed to a compulsory thing you need to do with stand-ups. Yeah. I've got the bug, and what can I say? I wouldn't buy a brand new 2024 because everything on this channel is classics, apart from the Spark, which really is the only true spirit of the old playful stuff from the 90s. But it gave me a great opportunity to become familiar with a craft, which was probably a great ski to jump on for the first time. You know, it's 4-stroke. It's got a very, very big hole from what I could understand compared to the old stuff. It was quite an intuitive learning curve. So if you're someone that's brand new to stand-ups, I think buying new would be a good call. And ultimately, you've got that 4-stroke, 45 miles an hour power, which I think is just really nice and intuitive if you're brand new to them. That being said, I'm keen to have a go on an old square nose now, just to feel how different it feels. I think the really exciting part of this channel and what I do is I ride really old and really new, and you really see the evolution of these skis. If you watch this video here, this is the promo of the new SuperJet, and you can actually see the spirit. Obviously, like I said, I don't know a ton about stand-ups, but I know that the 90s was, you know, there was a lot of freestyle that was going on. Obviously, there was racing that was going on, but a lot of freestyle. A lot of the newer skis now are such performance machines that I think that maybe, like with the old 2-stroke sit-down skis, a lot of that playfulness has maybe been lost. I might be getting that wrong. Again, put in the comments if I am. I think what was nice about going on the 2024 is, ironically, they've brought back the spirit of what I would probably be chasing for in a stand-up. I've got the bug. Huge thank you goes to George, like I said, who was the owner who let me have a go. And I was very lucky, after I'd had a good go on it, to be able to do a bit of a walk around, which I'll insert clips now. So we are now off to see George, who kindly let me have a go on his SuperJet. But what an experience having my first sort of go on a stand-up. I've only ever had one other go, to be fair, now at Mad Mike's, and I've got the bug. I want to get a stand-up. I don't know if I want to get a new stand-up. I want to get an old one just so it's in keeping with the channel, like an old square nose or something. That would be mega, but yeah, it just gives you diversity in your riding. Like, I think that's so important. I can see why back in the day you had like Chris the Fish and McCluggage who were actually riding both sit-downs and stand-ups. So this is the SuperJet. So it's a quick ski and you could just feel it. When you blip it, it was really pulling you along. The turning on this is like butter. That's the biggest thing I noticed, that less is more. You know, you really don't need to give it a lot, but you also in conjunction need to make sure that you're actually using the stem. That's one thing that I noticed quite early on. In order to turn it, get the most out of it, leg placement either side and steering. So there's like 3 things to think about: leg placement, getting the stem correct, and obviously the turning. Once you start to put all of that together, you get the most out of the ski. But then when your confidence gets up, you're off. And it does tend to throw you quite a bit. What's the top speed on this, George? Top sort of speed?
40.
Yeah. It feels quick on this though, right? It's a really nice acceleration on it. I would say someone who's new to a stand-up, kneeling on, fairly easy, standing up, fairly easy, but it's actually all of those the cognitive bits that go with obviously getting the most out of it. Really fun ski to have a blast on. The owner who let me have a go, big thank you to George. Show George some love in the comments. And what a community up here. Everyone's lovely. So as you can see with me knelt by it, it's a small ski, right, which I love. So I kind of feel like it's everything I love about two-stroke small sit-down X4s, but it's just a stand-up package. And it was always gonna happen, guys. You guys have asked me no end. I get comments all the time. I get DMs all the time. Joe, please ride a stand-up. The only issue I have now is I've opened up a whole can of worms as to whether I go Kawasaki or whether I go Yamaha. Now for me, disclosure time, I'm a Sea-Doo fanboy, first and foremost, because it's what I grew up with. I've came to love Yamahas, the Wave Blasters, the Wave Raiders and sit-downs. With the Kawasaki's, it's a little bit tricky. I don't want to offend anyone, but my love affair would maybe be with chasing an X2. I think that was a really unique design to the 90s. Then with stand-ups, I need to educate myself. This is your opportunity to put in the comments if there's a Kawasaki stand-up you want to see me on. I'm basically in the process at the moment of looking for a stand-up. And then the square nose. The square nose is always a stand-up, whilst again, I've not actively been trying to get one. It's always been a ski that I love the primitive styling. It reminds me a little bit of the Sea-Doo SP. It's very square, it's very boxy, and I personally like that. So square nose is quite high up there. Sit-down Kawasaki's, I know people talk about the Ultras, and there's some great skis from the 90s. I actually found some footage recently, little gem, I'll put a little clip of it in here now, where we actually had, I think it was Victor Sheldon that rode this really aggressive rapids. And in the 90s, they made a whole documentary on it. I'll put that in the description below. I'm going off on a tangent, but where I'm going with this is that was a Kawasaki sit-down, and I believe it was a Kawasaki stand-up. There's a really cool segment in there where a stand-up is in the production line, and you actually ironically see the technician or whoever's on the production line start up and just razz it. Yet nowadays everyone's like, don't rev them cold. So that's in the factory before it's even broken in. But guys, I am at the point now where I want to find a stand-up. I think realistically the skis for the channel are a Blaster 1, a stand-up of some effect, an X2 and an SP-X. I think they're maybe the 4 that I'm interested in. We don't have a ton of room in the garage, so I really need to be selective with what I pick next. I tend to think a square nose is where I'm leaning towards, but if you guys can send me some compelling Cowies from that period, I'm all ears. Guys, I hope you found this helpful to give you a small insight as to someone who's never rode a stand-up and having a go on the 2024. I would say it's probably a great ski if for the uninitiated to get into stand-up riding. It felt really intuitive. That all-white colorway gives you amazing scope to put some retro decals on there, which I've actually seen, which looks amazing. And obviously a lot of the square nose from the 90s were all white. So I think they're kind of taking that philosophy again. So it's all good things. Obviously it's not two-stroke, so we need to fix that. But guys, I hope you found this video helpful. Please consider hitting the subscribe button. You guys watching these videos really helps grow the channel. People seem to love these discussion videos. So if there's anything you want me to cover, whether it's modern or old stuff, topics, then please put it in the comments. And as always, guys, whether we're discussing new, the philosophy is always the same. Let's keep the classics alive. Thanks, guys.